I'm Vijaya Gajanan, and I recently graduated from a computer science bachelor's degree program. And right now, I am in transition to my master's program as well, which I'll be doing in America. And in the meantime, I've been working on personal projects as well as playing games.
I'm Bilal. I'm 32 years old and I work in IT. I've been working in IT for the past 10 years and it's my first year in the UAE.
I'm Akshay, and I'm a tech entrepreneur, and I've been into this professional world for the last 20 years. I graduated from IT Delhi in '99, and throughout my career, I've been a very active gamer, especially in the first half of my career.
I am Zaid. I'm been gaming in the past 20 years, and I'm an English teacher currently in China.
My name is Advaith Kometh, and more people call me by the moniker Hex. And I've been playing video games for well over a decade now.
So honestly, my earliest memory of gaming was when my dad got me and my sister. So my dad got the Nintendo NES clone. For the first game I played was the classic Super Mario Brothers.
You played the bootleg version of that game?
Yeah, the bootleg version. Not gonna lie, we didn't own the original NES at all. Once we got our own family computer, right, I started playing Flash games on it, and then I used to play games on Miniclip, Armor Games, Congregate. That was my actual transition to actually getting into gaming. On these sites like Newgrounds, you would see these video game parodies and all, and that's when I got introduced to actual console gaming as well as PC gaming. So my first console was this Game Boy Advance SP. I still have it. I got it when I was like 9 years old, and it still boots up. Did you see it? Yeah, it actually boots up. So the game I have in this is Pokemon Fire Red. So it's my first game ever, my first proper console and my first proper game. When I was 10 years old, the next year, I got my PlayStation Portable, and that's when I got into the actual 3D gaming part of of the spectrum. And then when I was 11, I got my Wii. I used to play Wii Sports a lot, and then Wii Resort a lot, and then a couple of other games. So I got my gaming laptop a couple of years later. In between the time when I got my gaming laptop, I used to play on emulators, play really old games that you couldn't find anymore on the market. Then once I got my gaming laptop, I actually got into PC gaming. So just like the person I first installed Steam, I started playing Dota 2. I started playing all the free games.
First interest in gaming started when I was probably 6 years old, 7 years old, and my mom introduced me to chess. And then I hit my first computer back in San Jose. I think it was a 486 Packard Bell, and I was really enticed by a lot of it. This was around 97, 98. I moved to Pakistan and I had more than enough free time. So I would play Sonic and Knuckles, Comic Zone was a great fun game. Panzer Dragoon, another fun game. I started diversifying when I moved back to the US, and this was in 2000. Dune 2000 was the first RTS game I played. Diablo 2, I loved opening up my world to Diablo 2. Every once in a while I'll see a YouTube video for Diablo 2, and I'll just check it out, and it'll be extremely nostalgic. Actually when I was getting off the plane, it was last year, end of September, it was really hot, and I got out, the first thought I had was, is this loot going? And then I was like, no. I'm not gonna get murdered here. Let's go. So I remember that more than the actual gameplay. My most memorable gaming-related incident when I was playing Counter-Strike 1.6 with a couple of buddies, and this one guy, I just dominated him constantly. And we were playing in Urdu, we were all playing in Urdu, and he exploded, and he called me all kinds of colorful words. Of course, reaching to the point of "you son of a," and you can imagine from there. And I'm sitting at my best friend's house, and we're laughing our butts off because it's so hilarious. This guy's sitting in America, and we're playing together, and he's just really losing it. He exploded. The tipping point was when he was going A long, and I knew he was going to come A long to assault me from the back on A short. So I was like, you know what? I got a shotgun. I waited for him. He jumped in front of me, and boom, and he died. And I was like, So of course I had to. See, that was still okay, right? It was when I went and teabagged him that he was like, he exploded. He just completely lost his shit, and that's been my hallmark moment of best gaming ever.
So my first game memory goes back to the Computer Science Center of IIT Delhi. That was back in 1995. we had this course around Introduction to Computer Science. We used to get only very fixed number of hours to go to computer center. There was some computer terminals where there was only text, and there were some big terminals which were very colorful. And there was one particular game, and I saw someone playing. It was Tetris. It was the first game which I started with, and I was kind of hooked to that because I would do my programming on the dumb terminals. That's what we call those text terminals. And I would wait for a bigger terminal to get free and then spend rest of my next 3-4 hours just playing Tetris. For college, I had seen a computer only once. That was in class 10th. When we went to a teacher's, office, and he showed us from far away that, okay, this is how a computer looks like. The first thing that he showed on the computer was a game, ping pong kind of game where you have a moving line and you have to bounce off a dot and which goes and hits on a brick. I have played Doom, I have played, Red Alert, I have played, some racing games, Moto Racer, NFS, I had experimented with almost like whatever games would come on the CD-ROM of PC Quest. That's what I would buy, all the free games. And once I got introduced to Age of Empires, and once I started playing it competitively or actively with online players, then I never looked back to any other game. My earliest memory of Age of Empires were, in my hostel at IT Delhi. My friend had a computer, and there were only 2 computers in our hostel. Luckily, my friend had one of the computers. And he used to play this Age of Empires, and I would just watch. And that was back in 1997, 98, I think. Few years forward, once I graduated, was working. And then my friend still had that computer, and we were staying together in an apartment in close to IT Delhi. Then also, I would not play. I would just watch playing him games. And at our office, there was this friend of mine, of ours, colleague, and he, once challenged both of us that I can beat both of you 1 versus 2. And I was like, how is that possible? How is that possible? We are used to playing hard computers, and we can beat 2 hard computers. And how can this guy beat 2 of us? And actually he did. Then I took it as a challenge, or it kind of hit me that how did he do that? And that was the early times of, let's say, Google's also. So there was all the strategies or everything would be online. So I started searching online, what are the strategies? How can I beat? How can I be better? I think it was about 1 or 2 months. I would just read strategies, learn strategies, practice them by myself. And then one day I challenged my friend that, okay, let's play. And after that, I never looked back. Beat him, and of course then I started playing online against real human beings.
Ever since when I was a kid, I think my dad got me a Game Boy Color. Been playing that for a long time, and I played games like Pokemon. It was the first car racing game I remember playing, and then started Pokemon, and then collected more games here and there with handheld mainly basis. And then from Game Boy Color, I had a Game Boy Advance SP, and after SP, I had a PSP. Remember like Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon trading card game, Super Mario for sure. I remember like lots of times if I remember going out with my parents, if I remember like on my way back home, I'd just play my Game Boy at the back. It was fun. It was easy. It was simpler times.
I think for me, it was maybe when I was 8 or 9, my parents would buy these simple little console sets, these bootleg Nintendo Entertainment Systems.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I think my dad had some trouble finding jobs. So we'd go home and play a bunch of Mario, whatever games were installed on those entertainment systems. Yeah, there was one particular game in the cassette ones. I think it was called Macross. It was a side-scrolling shooter kind of thing. And it had some very interesting music that always made me play it. I wasn't any good at it. I didn't understand how the game worked, but I loved the game though. My dad would play on and off mostly because I think for him, like the games we'd like to play at the time were all single player. Like you could either take turns at best.
Right.
And I was a kid, like mechanically I could only accomplish that much at the time. And my dad didn't know what he was doing either. So sometimes we'd get pretty far into Mario, other times we'd just mess around with other games.
How did you, transition from that to like the next generation, or like how did you continue gaming after that?
I think there was a break where it was just me using a lot of Facebook when it came out. Between, after that phase, after I just was done with Facebook when I was in my teens. So I think it was around 2013 or 14. I had a friend in high school who's begging me to just play this one online game over the summer. I ignored him for a while, but he eventually got me into it. It's a game called Team Fortress 2, and I think I've spent a solid 7 years straight just playing that game, nearly every day. My earliest memories were of seeing these really good players on these servers. I would constant. In TF2, one thing is you don't have this, back in the day, you didn't have a matchmaking system. You'd have to pick from a list of servers that somebody was hosting, because at the time, Valve didn't host by servers. So you'd pick from these servers that you know by the name of, pick one, go in, and you'd often see the same players because there's not that many people playing. So you get to know these really good players who constant the server, and you understand that they played in this particular way. And it becomes this internal challenge of you trying to get a kill on them. Score any kill I could by switching up classes, by messing around with strategies, scoring that kill, and it would just make my day because they were sometimes unkillable. TF2 was a turning point in my life, to be honest.
By nature, I'm very introverted, okay? And plus I had asthma since I was a kid, so I didn't get into much games. I did have friends which I played like, physical games, like, I used to ride my bike and all. But beyond that, I prefer to do like activities by myself. Gaming was one that was like kind of like a really good hobby in that case. I used to not speak really good, like like a few years back. Like I used to like, keep stuttering. I still stutter over some of my words like right now. I was like quite shy in general. So gaming did feel a bit of a hole in terms of society, because if you play these RPG games and you like make friends with somebody in the game, even though it's a non-player character, you can feel a really good connection to them. And honestly, RPGs kind of helped me like learn how to interact in social situations, because they taught you the cause and effect thing. Okay, if you say this, it'll affect the other person. One of my favorite games of all time is the Shin Megami Tensei series. It's like this series of Japanese RPGs. So one of the sub-series in this game, in this game category, is called Persona. You might have heard of it, honestly. So I think the Persona 5 is like quite popular nowadays in the mainstream catalog. But my favorite game of all time is Persona 4 Golden. In Persona 4, it's like a mix of like daily high school life plus like battling monsters later in the day. So in the game, you can actually create social links. You can interact with the characters. You can understand what and many of these characters are really fleshed out. They have their weaknesses. They have their strengths. And the whole game is about accepting yourself. All the strengths, all the weaknesses are in you. Like bosses and all are based on hated parts of a human. You as a player character interact with your with your friends. You build up the social link. You interact with them. You learn about their weaknesses, the strengths, and how your bond with them is actually helping them overcome their weaknesses. So it's really good philosophically, psychologically, and even socially. I would say it teaches you a lot of good social skills, honestly. And honestly, at the end of it, I was like crying because I really felt like, as the player character, I felt really close to those characters as well. I know it's more like in the end, it's like a 3D model in the game, but nonetheless, you do feel like that small bond, oh my god, if I can actually interact, if I can actually spend the time to interact with other humans, like how I interact in this game, I can actually find somebody with the same interests as me. I can interact with them. I can help them through their struggles, and they can help me through mine.
They did a lot of things, right? I loved their narrative style. The narrative style was fantastic. The way it would go back and forth. Again, Modern Warfare 1 was one exceptionally great game, right? All Gillied Up, that mission where you go back in time and you go through the whole thing with Imran, Zakhaev, and everything, right? Same thing with the storytelling, right? Because you're seated there, you're being tortured, and you're actively recalling every mission with the time gaps that you're going through. It was a very cinematic-like experience, and again, as the brainwashing is overcoming you with the numbers and you're understanding what it all is, it was a very well done, dramatized setup. I actually enjoyed the multiplayer on it more. People enjoyed the simplicity of Modern Warfare 1 and multiplayer, and I'm talking LAN sessions. We had this thing where at our peak, once a week, we just get together for a LAN party. Oh, it was fantastic. So when we first started off, right, I would always get the overpowered weapons because I knew what weapons to go for, right? Osman, well, we called it the Chua, right, the rat, because he ran and he never stopped. You shoot at him, he doesn't shoot back, he just goes shoot. And you're trying to keep up, and you run out of bullets, and by the time you're done reloading, he's run back to you and he kills you. You hate that, right? Sherry, he was the guy who had the Sharia. He had the hard on for all things LMG, so M249, RPK, and he'd just be like, and you try to compete with that with an extended mag. No, you'd still lose. Maybe an SMG, so you don't lose No, you don't get enough penetration. Damn it. So eventually killing him was only possible with a sniper rifle. Versus killing Usman was only possible with a goddamn shotgun or an SMG or an assault rifle. So it was kind of like, what do I do? What do I do? You know? So it was a very annoying kind of, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun on the small maps. We loved having fun on Bog. Kill House was great. My favorite was Block, and everyone except for Shariat and myself hated Block. You know, because so one thing that I would used to do, right? That and I was really pissed off when someone stole it from me. But my signature move was, if you've killed enough people at one point, like in Bog, you have these two walls with that gap in the middle, right? That would be a great place to kill a lot of people, right? So Waqas would die, Sherry would die, Osman would die. I would go boop, dead, all this shit happening. And I'm like, I don't see a way to get out of this without killing that guy who's screwing us over. So what I would do then is, I had this wonderful thing. I would lay down with the dead bodies. And that became a very, very interesting experience because I would be laying there with the dead bodies and people would be walking over me, running over me, bang, with a silencer. Okay, play dead. And they'd come back that way, go back that way. And it was the greatest thing. That continued for maybe a week, right? Just playing with people from the ground. And then one day Osman saw the flash, right? And he's like, wait a minute. So he started shooting into the ground. And, you know, the guys from the other side are like, what are you doing? It's like, killed, blitz, died. It's like, oh shit, you're lying here with the dead bodies. And they just lost their shit. So the next round was extra comical because now I'm camping with the sniper from very far away, and I'm seeing them shooting into the ground randomly to make sure that I'm not there. So that was quite fun. You know, that all lasted for maybe one round, and then after that, they're like, yeah, it's not worth it.
So I went to Korea in 2002, and I was there for 2 years. I got to get a taste of, gaming culture in South Korea, especially, seeing large audience cheering for computer gamers in a shopping mall and like big crowd gathering. And that was in like 2003. And then I further researched, and there were gamers who are living off gaming, professional gamers. I did not know of that culture, before going to Korea, or that possibility that there are people who can just earn and live off by playing games. So in South Korea, we had a day job, of course. I was there as a consultant, but weekends were completely dedicated to gaming. Friday, 5 p.m., I would just quit as in shut down from my office work, have not even wait for dinner, grab a couple of beer and a couple of drinks and get some food, snacks, go to a cyber cafe, get there before 8 p.m. because after that, it will be difficult to find a terminal. And I will not come out until 8 a.m. in the morning. Friday evening, enter 8 p.m. and come out 8 a.m. Saturday morning, Saturday, and get back to my room, get sleep, again get back to the cyber cafe by 6 p.m. and then sleep through the Sunday and then get back to work on the Mondays. In fact, that reminds me of one specific incident of a team game in Age of Empires. So we were playing 4 versus 4, and I think we started playing around 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning, and that game just kept going on and on, right? And I think around 6:30 or 7 a.m. I must have fell asleep. Which of course I realized later on. And when I woke up, we had won.
RuneScape was insane. RuneScape, I played it for 4 years or so. Started off with me and a friend playing it in the summer, like during our summer vacations when we were in high school. We just played that non-stop for 2 months or 3 months. Like the game that captivates you the most is the music and like the simple gameplay. Back then, I'd use my landline. I would call my friend on the landline because it was free, and we'd talk like the whole night. The same friend who I played with, he was nice enough to give me a membership as well. And that, like, we grinded so much. So what me and my friend did is that we went fishing in the game. So you can fish in the game as well. And you can fish lobsters, or you can fish sharks. Like, get those items, you can cook them as well. Once you get them cooked, there's always players in the game who want to buy cooked food because it heals you. So they want to buy batches of food from you. So you can sell, like, for example, it takes you like 5 minutes to get like 30 lobsters. You can sell each lobster for like 300 gold. and then that stacks up really high if you sell a lot more. And if you keep on repeating doing that over and over again, if you hoard up to like 1,000 lobsters, you get tons of gold. It was very grindy because you just have to repeat doing tasks over and over again. But we'd be on the phone, so it wouldn't be that boring. So you have someone to talk to.
I made some of my closest friends using Team Fortress. I think they've still been around, like a small group of people that I started the community with, like some of my admins and friends that I've met there. And to me, like, I'm glad Team Fortress happened because those people, we still hang out, we still meet up every now and then. Some of them have gone to other countries. When they're back, we'd meet. And we play a role in each other's lives. Sometimes we talk about careers, sometimes we talk about personal issues or emotional issues we go through. Or we just play other games while we're at it. In TF2, making friends is a painful experience in TF2. It starts with just you getting dominated or you dominating somebody and then getting angry at them. There'll be some sort of tussle. And then you'll meet again a couple of days later in the same server and the mood changes because you've forgiven each other, that you've realized maybe it was our mistake that this happened or their mistake or whatever. You acknowledge it and then you try to communicate. You try to get over that, you try to cross that river. And sometimes it works out and lasts for a while. Like midway through the time I had in TF2, I was trying to go I was trying to play in competitive teams.
Right.
At the time, there was only maybe 1 or 2 teams in the Middle East that were competing in Europe. And obviously they were full and they had their own friends. And I didn't know, maybe I only knew 1 or 2 of them. So it was difficult for me to get in. So I thought, let's make our own team. So the guy who brought me into TF2 also started the team and we tried to recruit people. We met some people. And in that process, I realized in the many months where that team was active, we realized we don't have an opportunity to practice. We don't have a playground to test our coordination and our understanding of the map. We needed other teams to basically scrimmage against. To do that, you need what is fundamentally a community. So then my mind started shifting towards how can I create a community? And the next couple of months was just spent figuring out how it is possible to take this diverse group of gamers in this region who speak different dialects of Arabic and different forms of English, have completely different views on everything. How do you get them together? And I got lucky. There was apparently already a bunch of people trying to make this happen. And I got in and I was working closely with them. I was an admin. I helped run events. I helped figure the service situation out. And one day, the guy who was running it had to actually deal with real life stuff because he was in his 30s at the time. And he made me head admin, which I was really happy about. And most of the people approved except for a couple of people. And I was maybe 16 or 17 at the time. So it was a big deal for me. But I sounded the same. So a lot of the people didn't care because it sounded like I was in my 20s anyway. When I became head admin, I had to constantly communicate with the other admins to make things happen. And a lot of the friends I have now were admins from back in the day. So we built this relationship up from the responsibilities we had to share and these goals we had in common on making things happen.
The funniest thing is my dad trying to play Wii Sports tennis with me. Of course, Wii Sports tennis isn't actual tennis. It's just whacking with the stick and it's so funny, man. So playing Wii Sports with my dad was really fun. Oh yeah, I can tell on with my mom, I was playing Wii Sports boxing for the lulz. And then my mom was gimme, let me try. And then she was just just doing like this. And I'm Mom, that's not how you box.
You ran a gaming zone in Pakistan. How was that experience?
Well, so here's the thing, right? Taking all these experiences. So this was after I was introduced to Diablo and all these other games, right? So when I set up the gaming zone, I installed the popular titles and that I thought were popular, and there were 10 or 12 games, and everyone came for only 2 games: Underground, Need for Speed Underground, and Counter-Strike, and that's it. No one gave a damn about any other game. I was like, but don't you guys want to try some other games? I have StarCraft, I have D2. What's this? No. Oh my God. One guy came to me and said, Uncle. I'm like, hold on. I'm not an uncle. Okay. I'm not even 20 yet. Uncle. God damn it. What do you want? Do you have Need for Speed 2? I said, get the hell out. There's the door. Get the hell out. I did play with the patrons. I used to play with them a lot. Yeah. Crouching and firing was my signature move, right? And people never crouched. It was the most phenomenal thing. Fire, 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 fire. They're not stopping either. And they completely miss. I just stop, crouch, headshot. Eventually they started picking it up, and then I just lost after that because I couldn't do it anymore, because they had faster reflexes and everything. I was just like, yeah, I'm moving on. So
I did play in one of the, in fact, first, let's say, national level professional gaming tournament, which had some real prize money. That was in 2005. Microsoft, no, 10 Sports. They hosted a tournament around Age of Empires at national level. So in that particular tournament, there were 8 cities: Ahmedabad, Delhi, Bangalore, and so every city had one local league. And then top 2 players, top 2 winners from each city. There was another level of tournament in New Delhi. I played from Bangalore. That time I was in Bangalore. I was working for Oracle, and I had stopped playing at that time. By the time when I moved back to India from South Korea, so but one of my friends, he said, "Oh, there's this game, and I think you play well. You should try it out." So I was like, "No, I have not played. I have not played for a long time, so I don't know how it will turn out. And maybe younger players, they will definitely, I don't stand a chance against younger players." And he was like, "No, let's just give it a try." And luckily, all my matches in Bangalore just finished in like very quickly, because there was some very specific settings which I studied and practiced, and looks like when I went with the right strategy, it was very easy to win the Bangalore leg. There were 3 matches to be played or won to win the final title. Since you counted 16, I think 3 matches. So my first 2 matches finished so quickly that I was already hearing that, okay, I think this guy will win the title before the final match. And in the first 5 minutes of final match, I just assumed, oh, I'm going to win. All of my matches except for the final match finished very quickly. And another interesting thing was, when I finished my semi-final match very quickly, I had so much of time, because the other game of my final opponent went too long, like 1.5 hours or something. But something interesting happened in the final match. So final match was against a player from New Delhi. I stuck to my same strategy, which I have been following from the very first tournament, from the very first match, because it was just working. So why would I change it? And I think within first 5 minutes of the game time, I saw my score was well ahead of him. What happened was, then he took for a timeout or pause, and there was a build order in my head that I have to do next, do this, and then I will be winning, right? But after 5 minutes break, when I came back to the computer, when I sit back, I just, for first few seconds, I just lost track of what was I supposed to do, right? So, and then from then on, I was like, I went through this thing, this loop of, I was supposed to do this, now I'm losing, and then I lost. And, so that's how I lost that match. Of course, all credit to that player also, because it did not affect him, but then it affected me, that break in the game. And unfortunately, or anyway, that was the format of the game. There was just one game. It was not best of 3 or best of 5. And I won, I think the prize money for second place was 60,000 rupees at that time, which was big money. The same year, Pankaj Advani, who's a snooker player, and he won the national level snooker title, and his prize money was 20,000 rupees. So yeah, I think I can claim to be, one of the first beneficiaries of, professional gaming in India.
I played it for the past 4 years or so, and it's called Warframe. I've played a lot. I have currently 4,000 hours on that. The most fun were a thing called raids. So usually Warframe, you either play alone or you can play in a party of 4. But raids, you can have a party of 8. And there are certain there are certain parts of the raid where you have to do things together at the same time. Like press a button at the same time, or do an action, or destroy something, or fix something, or protect something. And there are these small tasks you have to do at the same time, and in coordination to finish a raid. So there's different types of Warframes you can control, and there's over 30 of them. So one time we did a run where all of us went as one character who just spawned leaves. He would do elemental damage overall, but it's not strong enough. But it'll be really bright for the eyes. It'll just flash on the whole screen. And you can set your ability colors to whatever you want. So our clan leader decided like, okay, everyone choose any different color from each other. So we all had different colors. So there's like pink grass, there's green grass, yellow, blue, all types of different random ass colors all on the screen at the same time. Just cancer for the eyes, but it was fun to play because we were just trolling. But then we finished the raid anyways because we were experienced enough to do the tasks.
So yeah, okay. So you were talking about your community. Your community had what, 16, 17?
Yeah, around that age.
So you were in high school, right? Like around 10th, 11th, 12th?
And maybe 11th, yeah.
How was that experience for 11th,
It was amazing. So a part of the responsibilities, apart from making sure the stuff goes properly online, right, we actually had physical meetings with as many cafe owners as we could, like in the UAE, try to get them to give us a PC or two where we can host a server, and in return we'd advertise their cafe and also like try to run local events in their cafe. It worked a couple of times. So that was one of the more exciting parts because I would go there physically with some of these admins who are also older than me, but they're my admins. So there's just, like, I was trying to hold back a power trip. There's a mod in TF2 called MGE. It is basically a 1v1 mod where as soon as you die, you respawn in a smaller version of the map where you try to like 1v1 against somebody. The first to get 20 kills and the other wins that matchup. And we made a tournament on that. That was, I think, but I made some of the best visuals at the time I could make, and I was really proud of it. But the tournament was a giant disaster because of people not realizing the difference in time zones. A lot of people who registered for the event didn't show up because they thought it was an hour later or an hour or two later because some of them lived in Saudi Arabia, some of them lived in Qatar or Bahrain. We had a fraction of players attend. We just couldn't understand why people weren't here. And then after the event's over, people were like, oh, what happened to the tournament? And we just had to tell them you were late because you didn't come when we said that, like this time zone. And they realized, my bad, bro. So there was a prize pool as well that we had to give to the lucky few players who managed to know the time zone because they were there and they competed. The 4 or 5 players. That was good though. It was a learning experience to make sure everybody knows what time zone it is. There's another mod called Ulti Duo, and it's kind of straightforward. It's the ultimate duo. What you do is you have a pair, one's a medic and one's a soldier. They spawn onto a small map, which is a control point, and the medic and they're competing against another soldier and medic duo. So it's this very careful balance between landing your rockets and your shotgun pellets while your medic builds his Uber charge up, knowing when to engage and disengage, getting ammo. It's a very, very tug-of-war-ish kind of careful balance between even where your position is and which height you're playing at. And it was a very fun mod. A lot of people loved it. So we built a lot of hype for that, made a good poster, I think we made like a small video as well, announced it everywhere, made it in 2 weeks. And everybody loved it. There was like 20 or 30 people competing, and it was one of the better events we've had, apart from some other stuff. But this is I think my personal favorite standalone event we've made. I always wanted responsibility and trust, but my parents never gave it to me. I've always resented them that they've never given me the responsibility and trust I'd asked. But this gave me what I needed, and it really boosted my confidence as a person. And it helped me understand not just like how to do things, but how to like be critical of them, how to just make things better constantly while driving for that improvement without really letting it get to you. Because in the end, the community, you can only do so much to make it grow. Like it really matters how people view it and how people respond to it. No matter, sometimes you put a lot of effort, things don't work out. So there were very valuable lessons I learned while I was young. And it still helps me till this day. Like when you face things, you just try your best to not let it get to you when things don't work out.
I actually had like a bit of a social anxiety issue. After 4th grade, I think we were like separated into like different rings based on gender. So you had the boys ring and the girls ring. So for me, right, it was kind of hard to talk about games with the girls because they weren't much interested into games until like later like in 11th and 12th grade. So I didn't have much of a huge friends group back then, honestly. During my high school years, I was like more into online gaming. So I got into online gaming quite a bit, made a few friends. Of course, most of them from my school itself, so it didn't make there wasn't much of an issue. Back then, I was able to forge really good online bonds with my other people from my school. Honestly, games actually helped me improve my social skills in a way. I'm much more confident in talking, and I'm much more fluent as well. I remember us being stupid kids and in Minecraft we were digging as far as possible to hit to hit the lava. And the worst part is that we were all very diamond gear, so we were stupid. But even though we lost our expensive gear, we were having fun. We were just laughing all throughout the entire session. And honestly, it did feel you used to bring friends over, you used to play physical games with them in the house. It was just like that, except it was just online. That's all.
There have been three kind of vents for me in life. One has been music, one has been anime, and one has been games. But when it came to games, right? Games has been my venting point, especially for rage. And I'll give you a very easy, prominent example: Burnout Paradise, right? And unlike racing regular cars, your objective in many of these races is to beat the shit out of the other cars. It was a fantastic experience because, it'll go, the Archer's bows are broken, fantastic song, right? And then it'll go to Avril Lavigne, hey, you, I can be your girlfriend. So you're listening to all these, these English rock songs and all these great rock songs, and you're going around crashing cars, and then Avril Lavigne comes on, and you're like, hey, you, I can be your girlfriend, while totaling other cars left and right, where you're getting totaled as well, and you just hit the boost. That's a fantastic feeling. And then all of a sudden you'll go to Mozart, or Vivaldi, Four Seasons or something. That'll be this classical music playing in the background, like nothing alleviates stress like Burnout Paradise City. Because games for me, I think, let me put it this way, right? Games, while they started off as an escape, but games eventually became a second home for me. So even if the environment changes, even if all that happens, it became a second home for me, essentially. It doesn't matter what the title is, it just becomes a second home of sorts, So here I am in my very empty living room, but the moment I go back and start playing a game, I'm on Mars, messing with someone's power supply. And it feels like home. Honestly, it feels like home.
My initial years, the first decade of 2000s, I was mostly disconnected from the outside world because I did not find it interesting and fast moving enough. Gaming world was fast moving, different world, and it was just totally different world. I could interact and play with any people from around the world, and the problems to solve there were not typical life problems which I would hear at office. That I need to get a car, I need to get this job, I have this relationship problem, I had that relationship problem, and all those real world problems. I would just not escape from them into the gaming world because it was a totally different world and different problems to solve and fast moving and more engaging than the real world. And that's how it was till 2010. Yeah, that's around when I quit. I decided to quit gaming because then I thought real life is much more immersive and difficult and challenging game to play. Maybe I was not ready, and the PC gaming was preparing me for this. Everyone has some ups and downs in life, and whenever I would have some, let's say, some real world problem which I don't want to deal with or I would get away with, of course I would just go back to and play games for maybe the whole weekend or just play games whole night. So but yeah, given a choice, if at that time there was a professional gaming culture where you can make some money out of it, I would have definitely chosen that, without a doubt.
Like in high school, I think I had more of like a social anxiety. Like if they were, now I'm fine, but then as an adult, but then when I was younger, I think with more people around, got me anxious to like talk to people, but then having different conversations with people online helped me to talk to people.
So gaming kind of helped you in that sense?
It definitely did.
Right.
Because in gaming is like, okay, you're never gonna see this person ever again, or it's a random person is gonna meet.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know who you are, you don't know who they are. Might as well just talk.
I didn't like going to school at all. I didn't like any of the class situations. I didn't like any of the people there. They all felt like they're either too busy studying or like going towards a goal that didn't matter, or they were interacting in superficial kind of friendships, and it felt like I didn't want to be a part of any of this. Then there was the frustration I get from the teachers being unable to teach me things that were so basic when I look back at it, and all the struggles there and all the hours spent there, we just didn't add up to jack shit. So for me, the entirety of school was just, I hated it. So video games for me was my opportunity to not just get away from that, but actually gain what I wished I got from it, the time I spent in school, just to grow as a person. So it wasn't like a blanket reprieve. It was the playground I needed to evolve. And TF2 was most of it, because it provided many opportunities to interact with people. I learned how to be patient with people, to talk, to enunciate words and share stories and ideas. And I wouldn't have gotten any of that from school. Let me be frank with you. I would have been the quiet kid when I entered college if I didn't have TF2 in my life. I would have been that awkward that sat in the corner, not proud of anything he's done, not happy with anything he's done, not having anything to be excited about, because school is just a genuine mess for me, just an absolute mess for me. So few good memories. I think barely any good memories I have from that time I spent my entire days in school. I was in 3 different schools. I shifted in schools a lot, but making friends was never the issue. I made friends. It just felt like it didn't fit there. Yeah, TF2 was a very special time in my life where that one game could keep me entertained. And I haven't had that feeling ever since. For those few years, it was just TF2. I could wake up, go to school, get my shit done, come back, and it would just be TF2 after that. Just that singular game. And I don't know how I did it, but the game meant so much to me. A lot of it maybe was once you had a community, I couldn't play as much because I had to do activities that involved growing the community, but it would still mean it was TF2. So it just added up. TF2 was central in my time, in my brain at that time.
I've talked about Persona 4 Golden, but my absolute favorite, which is currently only available in 2 forms. So it's called Persona 3. P3 is a bit more darker and talks about themes regarding death. Death is something that's a very scary topic to talk about. It talks about different concepts memento mori, which basically means that remember that you will die one day. So it's a good reminder that tell yourself one day you're gonna die, but because there's a certain time limit to your life, you should try to use this life as much as possible. So there are really good themes covered in that game.
Off-road trading company, fantastic game, and that just opens up my mind to a lot of things, because each repetition or each iteration is randomly generated, and water may be very valuable here, it may not be very valuable in the next round. If you have a map where you have a very huge scarcity of silicon, everything dependent on silicon, like glass, electronics, extremely expensive, right? So you want to be very careful. Or if you have high scarcity of carbon, then carbon-based stuff like chemicals, very, very, very expensive. So it's a very fun thing. And again, the black market has different things that you can go through as well, different kinds of sabotage each time.
In real-time strategy, because I have played Age of Empires, I would highly recommend Age of Empires, because one thing that you learn from this game is, or especially playing against human opponents, team play, collaboration, tracking of resources, and communication. There are a lot of things, and you make friends and enemies, and you go through a lot of emotions also.
Braid is a platformer, but it changes the storytelling a little bit, and it's a great take on it. I think a lot of people should try it out, at least. Itself as a genre of game itself and storytelling, it has a great balance of it.
I don't have a particular game I'd say you have to play this, because I think more than anything, I think you need a game that really enthralls you. I think every person should experience being hooked to something, just being unable to not think about it and not need it. I think that's more valuable than anything. The hook you get from the appropriate video game, it feels more like this puzzle you want to constantly solve.
True.
It'll appear in your dreams. It will be there in your lingering thoughts. It'll be there when you're driving sometimes, because that's all you can think about. Because what that game presented to you was irresistible. You have to figure it out. It's going to disappear one day, but while it's there, you enjoy it. It could even be Tetris for some people, because to each their own. But I think just pursuing that is more than anything, is what I would recommend.